What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my 2024 annual wrap-up for all the books that I read. I read 30 books and I'm just going to go through all the ones that I read and tell you a little bit of my thoughts about them. The first book I read is A Little Life by Hana Yanagihara. This book, you guys, was so good. Like, believe all the hype that you hear about it. This is a very triggering, trauma-filled book, but this book was so beautifully written. It was amazing. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I so desperately wanted to be his friend. I'm like, you needed me to be around to help you get through some of this stuff. Like, this book is so good. Like, it is a chunky read, but it is also something that if you do decide to read it, it's going to stick with you forever. Like, this book was just so good. And it's following this man named Jude and just his experiences throughout life, him and his friends. And it's just talking about how they grew up together and the things that they all deal with personally. And it was just so good. The people in this book that hurt him, I so desperately wish that they could come to life somehow and I could do some things to them, because I just couldn't stand it. But this book was really amazing. So if you guys do decide to read it, just know it is going to be a very intense book, and if you're not ready for it mentally, don't read it. But if you are ready to get into something that is going to have you feeling a lot, this is the book you need to read. Next book I read is African Holistic Health. This book is just talking about ways for African Americans to be healthy, ways to improve your health emotionally, physically, mentally. It talks about different things that they did in Africa that helped heal a person, how they could tell where their dis-ease was, ways to help get everything back in balance, whether if it's like mental issues, issues with your eyes, issues with your gut, knee pains, back pains, literally any kind of issue that you're dealing with, there is some information on how you could fix that or decrease in that disease. And it is just very, very informative. It talks like literally about things to do on certain days, what certain foods help certain parts of your body, what certain pains could mean for other parts of your body. It's just really, really good. So if there is anybody that is looking for more information on things or in regards to African American health, I think this will be like a very good place to start. But starting here with this one, I think is like a really good idea. The next book I read was Skin by Audrey Rush. This is an erotic horror story, and this book was something. It was wild. It's very small. This book is following a man named Teddy, and he is a taxidermist, and he gets asked to do a strange request. He is asked to preserve a human body, and it's just navigating how he deals with that. There are a lot of triggers in this book, so please check the content warnings before going into this. It is disturbing, as it implies. Be mindful of that before you read it. It was fun though, overall. I think this cover is really cute. But just know it is a messed up book. But I had fun reading it. Next book I read is Playground by Erin Beauregard. This book was really fun. I completely understand why people struggle to get through like pages 30 to 40, 30 to 45, whatever. The main character in this book, Geraldine Borden, she is a menace, and she is the most vile, disgusting thing in this book. By the cover, you know what you're expecting when you read it. You know like what's going to happen, and that it's going to be traumatizing and gruesome in this area, because you can see it's a child atop of a bloody slide. But you do not expect the things that it talks about with Geraldine. She is disgusting. So if you do decide to read this, know Miss Geraldine does have some issues. She's fucked up. So just know that going into it. This book is following 3 low-income families that she kind of picked out, knowing that they have a low-income financial situation, and she is offering the parents money to let their children play on her playground that she created. So it's just following that story and how the children navigate through the playground that she created, and if they're able to survive the architecture before them. So this book is very graphic. It's gruesome. There are some pictures of some of the kids' deaths in here, so be mindful of that. This is an extreme horror book. This is not nothing to be taken lightly. I thought it was really good. I will continue to read some more of his books, but just know Geraldine is the most disgusting thing in here, in my opinion. Next, I read Does It Hurt by H.G. Carlton. I really like her books. I thought this one was fun. This is a forced proximity bully romance type of book, and it is following Enzo and Sawyer and just their relationship. They go out on a ship and then they get shipwrecked and they get stuck on this island with this weird old man in his lighthouse, and it's just following their story from there and what they can do to survive and if they'll survive. So I thought it was fun. I liked it. It's a dark romance. Check your trigger warnings before you read it. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Next book I read is Children of Anguish and Anarchy by Tommy Adeyemi, and this is the third book in the Legacy of Orisha series. I really liked this book. I gave all the books a 5 out of 5. I'm not a picky reader. I read for the vibes. I read for fun. I enjoyed it. My favorite is still the first book, which is Children of Blood and Bone, but I really enjoyed this one too. And this one is very pretty. They're all very pretty. I understand people's gripe with this one though. I get why they had those issues, but overall I still really enjoyed this book. I liked the new people that they met. I liked the magic systems that were introduced in this book, and I'll read anything that she writes. Next, I read Stuck in Neutral by Terry Truman. I believe this is like a little YA fiction book. This one is following this little boy named Sean, and he is completely paralyzed. He can only move his eyes. He can't talk. He can't move, and he feels like his dad is wanting to murder him. Sean can hear everything. In his mind, he's not disabled. He understands everything that's being said. He's just not able to communicate, so they don't know if he is able to understand or if he is just like completely in a vegetative state, not processing anything around him. I want to say it's a series. There are more books that follow this one, but I did like it. I don't know if I'm going to continue reading more. I might, but it's not nothing that's like a priority right now. But this book was fun and it was quick and easy to read. The next book I read is Scream for Us by Molly Doyle, and this is another erotic horror book. I read this one around Halloween. It's about this girl named Quinn, and she's at a Halloween party, and she finds herself in a captivating game of infatuation with 3 masked men, Jason, Michael Myers, and Scream. Her one demand is that the game ends at dawn. Have the men made their mark, or is the game really going to end? It was fun. Check your trigger warnings. You need to be old enough to ride this ride and read this book. I liked it. Read it for a good time, and a good time was had. Next, I read It's Me, Charlie by C.M. Goodreads. This book is following a man named Charlie who is pretending to be a woman online, and he is infatuated with this woman named Jessie, and it's just basically talking about his infatuation with her, and he kidnaps her, and how he thinks it's going to go, but what actually really happens in reality. It was a quick, fun read. Disgusting. The spit scene is gross. If you read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Didn't need that, but it was good. Check your content warnings. That's all I gotta say. Next book I read, Come Out Wherever You Are by Harley Beck. This book is following Skylar and Nate. Skylar and her friend Evelyn accidentally hit Nate in a hit and run. They thought he died, and so they never told anyone. They just kind of pushed him to the side. But a year later, he has came back, and he is out for revenge. This book was fun. This book was confusing as shit for a little bit. Like, I had no idea what was going on for like 2/3 of the book. It wraps it up in the end, but if you read this, just please prepare to be confused, because I was like, it was difficult trying to navigate what parts was reality and what parts weren't. But it was really fun. I did like that. At first I was just like, what is happening? But it wraps it up for you in the end. But yep, it's just, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. Next book I read was Where Dead Things Lie by E.R. Hendricks. Wow, I read a lot of erotic horror this year. Didn't realize. This book is following Coraline, and she is a serial killer. She only kills men, and somebody knows what she's doing, someone from her past. This book was gross. This is a close second, if not first, of grossness against the playground. There is some incest in here, and it is more than I thought it was going to be. Like, I was not ready for that. So please be mindful of that. That is a big part of this little book. I will read some more of E.R. Hendricks' books. I just didn't know that this was, I didn't read the trigger list fully, apparently. So I didn't know that that was going to be like a big thing in this book, but it's fine. It was still a good book. I just was not prepared for that. This is a disgusting book. The trigger warnings are in the back instead of the front. So just be mindful of that when you pick it up. If you're looking for the list, it's in the back. But the book was fine. Next, I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I don't know what took me so long to read this. You guys, this was so good. This is my first book by V.E. Schwab, and I've been slowly trying to read things that have been on my shelf for a minute versus reading all the new books that I'm getting. They need their fair chance. This book is following Victor and Eli. They are both college students. They're roommates. They're both brilliant and arrogant boys. They both decide to do their research on adrenaline and near-death experiences. They realize that some people could develop extraordinary abilities, but when their thesis move from academic to experimental, things go horribly wrong. And it's following 2 different timelines as well, so we're going into the past and then going back into the present from both of their points of views, and this book was really good. I will be reading Vengeful, which is the second book in this duology, and I cannot wait to read it. I'll be ordering it this year, and I'll be reading it this year. It was just really fun, and it feels like realistic powers that humans could potentially have in the real world, at least to me. It's not like, nothing crazy. It feels realistic to me, which is why I think I liked it. This book was really fun. I gave it like a 5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. Everybody needs to read Vicious if you haven't read it already. Next book I read is Spookily Yours by Jennifer Chitman, and this is a Halloween romance novel. This book is following Willow and Damien. Damien is a shapeshifter. He can turn into a cat, but he is stuck in a cat state. Willow is a witch, and she is going to help him get back to his ability to be able to switch at will. It is against the law for witches to help demons, so it's just going through their journey together and discovering that they might have feelings for each other and how that looks, especially if their love is forbidden. This book was so fun. I read this during Halloween. I loved it. It was cute. It's not nothing super life-changing or anything like that, but if you want like a fun, spooky read, you need to read Spookily Yours. There is a sequel following Willow's sister called Wickedly Yours. It doesn't follow anything specific in regards to a holiday, I don't believe, but this one was just really fun, and it's just so cute, and I had a good time reading it. So if you just want a fun little romance novel, that is the one. Next, I read The Island by Natasha Preston. You guys already know I love Natasha Preston. She's one of my favorite palette cleanser authors, and I'll read anything that she writes. So The Island is following 6 influencers, and they are mostly like TikTokers. So this is a fairly new book. And they are going to be doing reviews of this private amusement park for the very rich. When the teens arrive, they're stunned. The resort is very beautiful and better than anything that they could have imagined, and the theme park rides are incredible. But soon they realize that getting off the island alive might be an issue because they start dying one by one, and they're trying to figure out who the killer is and how they can survive. This book was fun. I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite one. My favorite is The Cellar by Natasha Preston, and then probably The Lost. But I still quite enjoyed it, and I will continue to pick up more of her books. If you guys want to read about teen influencers being trapped on this island, nowhere to go because they're surrounded by water, please read it. Next, I read Mind Games by Kirsten White. This is also a book that I've had for quite a minute. This book is following 2 sisters, Sophia and Annie, and they are recruited to go to this school for only girls that have special powers. What they don't know is that the school is not what it seems, and they are trying to escape the school, but that proves to be harder said than done. This book was okay. I think when I got it, I was really excited about it, and it made sense for me years ago at the time, but I think I've kind of outgrown this book, so I liked it. There was nothing wrong with it. It was just kind of like middle ground for me. I get why I liked it then, but it's not like super my taste now. I see why I liked it when I picked it out. But it was cool. I gave it like an average 3 stars. Yeah, it was just kind of middle ground. It was fun. You kind of knew what was going to happen. I didn't guess everything, but you kind of get like where the book was going. I liked the power system that they had, but it just was kind of was just kind of, yeah. But that is Mind Games by Kirsten. Next, I read Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman. This book was so fun. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I know some people were a fan of the book being told from an 8-year-old's point of view, but that is why I really loved it. And it seemed real realistic the way they had the daughter talking, and I enjoyed this book. So this book is following 8-year-old Bella, and she has a demon in her closet that she refers to as the other mother, and the other mother wants to go inside her heart. And so it's just navigating Bella understanding what that means. I thought this book was really fun. I liked it. I need to read more Josh Mallerman. I did read Bird Box, and I really liked Bird Box. I really liked this one, so I think I need to continue and buy some more books for him because neither one of them have disappointed, in my opinion. So if you haven't read Incidents Around the House, please go and read it. This book was good. Next, I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This was a reread for me. This was something I did for myself for my birthday. I wanted to reread a book that I knew I loved, and it is still so good. Night Circus is following Celia and Marco. They're two young magicians who have trained since childhood for a deadly duel. With the lives of everyone at the Circus of Dreams at stake, they must test the very limits of imagination and of their love. And this book is just... it's so good. Atmospheric writing is so good. The world building, describing the things that take place in the night circus, it is just so beautifully written. I love this book. It is probably always going to be one of my top books just ever, at least as of right now. And it's just amazing. Yes, breathtaking, enchanting. Exactly. This book is so beautiful. Everybody needs to read it. I love this book. There's nothing wrong. This is like a perfect book in my eyes. I loved it. It's so good. Everybody needs to read it. The next book I read is Brother by Anaya Alborn. Miss Anaya, she did that with this book. Like, this book was so good. And I will be reading more of her books. I have another one now that I need to read, but I need her whole backlist. It was so good. Deep in the Appalachia is this farmhouse with this family, the Morrows, and we are following 19-year-old Michael, and he's realizing that he's not like the rest of the family, and he is having thoughts of leaving. And then his older brother, Rebel, is all too eager to remind Michael of his place and remind him that he needs to stay with the family and that's where he belongs, and he'll remind him as much as he needs to. So the Morrows kidnap women and kill women, and Michael is deciding like, well, maybe I don't want to do that. Rebel says, know your place and forever know it. This book was so good. There is some triggering topics. There's not like a content warning list. Just know going into this, there are some triggering topics that'll be discussed, but this ending pissed me off. Oh, that is not what I wanted to happen. But this book is so good. Please read Brother, y'all. Please. It was just chef's kiss. She be writing. The next two books I read are Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, both by H.G. Carlton. That probably looks better. I love these books. I know there's some controversy following these books. You knew what you was getting into when you read it. You know what I mean? Like, she has the content warnings. In the beginning, she literally says this one is extremely darker than the second one, or extremely darker than the first one, so please be mindful of that going in. I feel like the trigger warnings tell you exactly what you need to be looking for and what might be triggering, and that your mental health matters. So it's not really a surprise by what's in there. I feel like, personally, she's not trying to glorify bad things happening, but it is important to her and her story and how she wanted to tell it. So be mindful if you do decide to read these. If you haven't read them yet, they are dark romance. I love Zaid. He's one of my favorite book boyfriends so far. I have not read as much dark romance as I would like yet. We're getting into it. But right now, Zaid is my favorite book boyfriend. No one could tell me otherwise. I just love these books. They were fun. I'll continue to read more of her books. I had a good time. Next, I read Under Rose-Tainted Skies by Louise Gournall, and this book is following 17-year-old Nora. She has agoraphobia amongst other mental health issues, and then a neighbor moved in. His name is Luke, and it just talks about how she navigates building a friendship with someone outside of her mom and navigating how she's able to develop a friendship with someone outside of her home. This book was cute. It was fun. It's like a little lighthearted, fun romance book. It's a cute little story. If you just want something that's not too much, you just want like a light, fun book, I would say go ahead and read this. Nora did get on my nerves a little bit, just a little bit. But overall, I liked her. I really loved Luke. I thought this book was fun. And I think other people should read it. Next, I read In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami. So sorry if I said your name wrong. This book was really good. This book was fun. This book is following two men, Kenji and Frank. Frank is a tourist and Kenji is a tour guide. He is showing Frank the sleazy nightlife of Tokyo, and there is currently a serial killer killing clients in Tokyo, and Kenji feels that Frank might be the person that is committing the crimes and how he navigates being his tour guide and what he should do. This book was really fun. There are some disgusting scenes in here, not a lot, maybe just like one or two that are like really disgusting, but I thought it was fun. It was a good book. I will continue to read more by this author. Next, I read Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Call. This book is following a group of friends that are staying in a haunted house for like a wedding party for two of their friends in the group that are getting married. It was okay. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't nothing that stood out, at least to me. I thought the book was fine. It's just like a classic horror novel, consequences for your actions kind of thing. I love the cover of this book. It's very beautiful. But for me, the book didn't really like do a lot. But it was okay. Please read it if you still feel like you want to. I don't want to dissuade you from reading something. But for me, the book was just okay. The next book I read is Seven African Powers, The Orishas by Monique Joyner Sideblock. I'm very sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. And this book is just giving general basic information about the seven African spirits and just like things you can do if you wanted to create an altar for them, what would be appropriate to do for them, things that they like, and what kind of things they could bring into your life. And it's very short, as you can see. That's why I say basic. It's just kind of giving you the basic fundamentals of what you would do if you wanted to have an altar for a specific spirit. So if that is your vibe, I feel like this is a good way to get into like the basics of what that would look like if you wanted to do it. Next, I read Dark Psychology and Manipulation by Brandon Goldman. This book gives you basic information and knowledge on dark psychology and manipulation for people if you're trying to discover if family, friends, people in the workplace are trying to manipulate you or treat you in any negative way. It's supposed to help develop your emotional intelligence and be better aware of if people are trying to manipulate you or treat you a certain kind of way, take advantage of you, things of that nature. Most of this I was already aware of, but there were some new things that I didn't know about, like NLP secrets, techniques about mind control, things of that nature. But it does talk about body language, persuasion, ways to know if someone is a narcissistic person, if they're a controlling person, if they're trying to potentially manipulate you. If you want the basic grounds of what that might look like or what to avoid in people or relationships that you're building with others, this would be a good place to start. And the next book I read was Twisted Heathens by J. Rose. This is a complete trilogy, but I've only read book one. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I hope to get to the second and third books this year. I just read book one. So book one is following Brooklyn West, and she is staying in Blackwood Institute, and she ran into these four men, Cade, Hudson, Eli, and Phoenix. And this is like a reverse harem book. This is a dark romance, a really dark romance. please check your trigger warnings before going into this, and it's just navigating her relationship with these 4 men. This book is wild. Welcome to Black Institute, home to the dangerous and disturbed, murderer, unhinged, remorseless, insane. That would very much describe this book. So just be mindful of that if you do decide to read it. But I had a good time reading the first one, and I'm ready to complete the trilogy. So hopefully we'll get to at least book 2 this year. The next 4 books I don't have physical copies of, so I will include pictures somewhere in here. But the next 3 books that I read were a trilogy, The Horizon. I can't remember the author right now, but I'll link covers of the books in here. And it was just following a little boy and a little girl, and they were navigating the world after war and trying to find a safe place to stay. It was really quick. My nephew let me borrow them. You have to read them all 3 together for the best experience. It took me like maybe 2 hours to read them all. It's kind of told in like a graphic kind of style. Not exactly a graphic novel, but kind of like one. So it was really easy to read and really quick to get through. It was a sad book, or a sad story, but really empowering, and it was really good. So if you guys want something like that, please read The Horizon volumes 1 through 3. The last book I read in 2024 is Death Is Not the End, Daddy by Nate Allen. This book is following John and Matthew. John kidnapped Matthew's daughter, and he has kidnapped 14 children before and has murdered them. Matthew is the father of the child that's most recently been kidnapped, and it is just navigating through John's mind as he has this last child. He is essentially possessed by this teddy bear, and the teddy bear is the thing that is telling him to commit these murders. This book does push heavily in like conversations with God and them talking to God. So if you're not really into that, I would say it's probably not the best book for you. But like, it was okay. A lot of the stuff in the book was kind of repetitive with like things they would say and phrases they would use. So I gave this book like maybe like a 3-star, 2.75, 3-star read for me. It was just like very, very repetitive in some point. There were some like really cool quotes in the book, and I like how it was told from 2 different perspectives and how it gets through the book. The chapters were really quick. I read it on Kindle, but it just was, it was okay. It was okay. It was like 140 pages. It was a quick read. Yeah. All right, y'all. Those were all the books that I read in 2024. My goal was like 25, so I did exceed that goal. I'm going to go for 30 again, just because this was my first year really getting back into reading, and I want to see if I can meet that goal. And then if I'm able to again meet the 30, I will go up next year, and we'll just try to go up a little bit each year and see how it goes. So I'm very excited to see what 2025 will bring for me in regards to meeting my reading goal. 2024 was good. It was good. It was a good year for me. So I'm excited to see what 2025 will bring. All right. That was it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.